Welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm Chris Love.
And I'm John Stork. Big weekend this past weekend with a lot of conference championships, Chris. Why don't we look back at it?
Have you ever wondered why it's so important to be a member of U.S. Sailing? We are all U.S. Sailing. From beginners to experts, from one-design sailors to offshore cruisers, and from instructor trainers to race officials. U.S. Sailing supports all types of sailors in countless ways. Where would sailing be without instruction and safety standards? Where would we be without Learn to Sail programs? Join or renew today to support these resources and ensure sailing remains a lifetime activity for everyone. It sure was, John. Out in the Midwest, we had University of Wisconsin-Madison hosting a 3-day combined co-ed and team race championship and coming away with a big win for MCSA. The home team goes undefeated in team racing and then wins co-ed fleet racing champs with a score about half of that of their second place opponents. Then down in CISA, again another big win for the home team. This time it's Tulane hosting the co-ed championships. They actually tie on points with Texas A&M Galveston, but they are the conference championships, the conference champions, and headed to nationals. And then finally, if you watched last week's show, you know I was out in Santa Barbara. Gorgeous weekend for the PCCSC Women's Conference Championship. I was actually able to go out on the pier and watch a little bit of racing. Great breeze. Looked like a really good regatta. Stanford comes away with their 10th Women's Championship in a row for PCCSC.
Wow, Chris, that's a really impressive accomplishment for the Stanford women's team. 10 straight conference championships is really pretty impressive. It's great to see them going back to nationals, which we can see is sort of a normal occurrence. But a lot of teams, booking trips to nationals this week, and that's awesome. It's good to see kind of the end goal on the horizon for so many of these sailors. But over the last bunch of years, there's been some format changes to nationals, and maybe we should take a look at some of those and kind of break down the nationals formats for the 3 main disciplines in the spring for some of our viewers.
Sure thing, John. Yep. No new changes for this year, for 2015, but we've actually seen a lot of changes in the past several years to this format. As we know, there's 7 districts in college sailing. Now we call them conferences for the different regions, and each one gets at least one berth to each of the national championships. So they have, each conference this time of year puts on one for women's, one for team racing, and one for co-ed. Starting with the women's, we have 27 berths to the women's nationals. 9 of them are automatic berths to finals, and the other 18 first go into a semifinal round. The top half from that regatta go on to face the 9 automatic berths. A little bit convoluted, but it all works out. Everybody gets a few good days of racing. Some people get more than others. Then moving on to team racing, pretty straight up format. It used to be 14 teams, now it's 16 teams, which has made the last year's team race national championship very competitive. This should be the same this year. Looking forward to that. That's a 3-day event. And then co-ed champs, they introduced co-ed semifinals a few years ago. That means 36 teams qualify for this event. And then last year they moved it up so it coincides with the finals, same way as the women's. They have 2 days of semis followed by 2 days of nationals finals. So that's what's going on in the next few weeks.
Well, thanks for that breakdown, Chris. College Sailing Nationals certainly has gotten a little more complicated over the years, but it's really all in an effort to give more people an opportunity and to make these events at the end of our year that much more competitive. I remember, when I was in college sailing, nationals was what every kid was working for in the country all year long, and it's great that more kids are getting that opportunity. Speaking of that, we're going to take a little bit of a tangent this week with our guests, and Chris has an interview with Patrick Ren, and believe it or not, Pat Ren and I finished right next to each other in our final race ever in college sailing, senior year. He went to Brown. I was at Hobart, and we crossed our last race together, and we kind of looked at each other and smiled, and just said, "This has been a great time." And since then, we've remained pretty good friends. And he, for those who don't know, he has founded an organization called Waterlust. And for anybody who doesn't follow them on Facebook and Instagram, you really should. It's a great time. Incredible short films, photography, but really it's with a good cause. And Chris, we're fortunate enough to get a really good interview out of Chris with Pat Ren.
The best team racing of the summer is happening in Zim 15s, and the schedule is set. Newport, Marblehead, Annapolis, and Charleston will host the hottest sailors and the coolest boats as they prep for the U.S. Team Race Championships this fall. Now is the time to pick an epic team name, sign up for events, and purchase your new Zim 15 or lock in a charter for the summer. Visit zimsailing.com for additional information, sail fast, and have a blast in a Zim 15. Well, thanks, John, and I'm really pleased to have with us on the show this week Patrick Ren, founder of Waterlust.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great, doing great. I know John wish he could be here as well, but he's busy. I'm here at my house, Chalk Talk Studios East, and I'm really glad to talk to you. I know a lot of our followers on social media, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, are probably also a lot of your followers. For those of you who aren't aware of Waterlust, you can find them in these places and see amazing photos and video of sailing, kite surfing, and all kinds of things to do with the water. But we thought that this might be a good opportunity to kind of introduce your organization a little bit more in depth, because as awesome as these images are, people don't always know what is Waterlust.
Sure. Yeah, that's a question we get a lot. What is it? It's a bit of a doozy, but yeah, it was sort of a project that I started. I kind of moved away from competitive sailing after my Olympic campaign, and it was actually the same time John was doing one with his brother. So we sort of kept living the dream after college sailing, and we all were down in Florida and doing all that fun stuff, sailing 49ers. And then I decided to go to grad school. I was actually in grad school when I was doing the campaign, then I decided to do a PhD, and it really wasn't something I could do while also campaigning, so I had to sort of give that up, which was okay. And yeah, it was sort of at first an experiment. We noticed within the marine science world that there was sort of a disconnect between a lot of the cool science that was being done, and then a lot of like sort of the stakeholders, which were people that are passionate about the marine environment, so athletes or especially sailors, surfers, kiters, kayakers, all these different groups of people. And so we started it as sort of an experiment to see how we could kind of blend these worlds together and use video and photography as a platform to get people thinking. And that's really the ultimate goal of it, is through the content, the photos and the video that we publish. We just want to get people thinking and sort of remind them that this is a really important resource to our happiness and to our everyday lives. And then we like to mix in this world of marine science to let the general public know, hey, this is it's an area of work that exists. A lot of people don't know, and you should be aware of it. And there's all these cool things. And for up and coming students, this is a great avenue if you want to study it and make it your career. So that's sort of how it started, and now it's sort of evolving into. I'm not sure. We'll see. It's ongoing. It evolves every day.
You just a few weeks ago, I think maybe it was a month ago now, launched the second version of the sailing speed testing. Tell us a little, just briefly, the background on that.
Yeah, so that was the first time we did it. That was actually, the first one was a video I did called Kite versus Moth versus 49er. And it was really my first experiment in kind of online video filmmaking. And I did it just sort of for fun. And I really enjoyed making it. And that experience, after I did it, I was like, man, I really like making videos. This is really enjoyable. I want to keep doing this. And so that sort of was the beginning of Waterlust, really, was that video. And And then over the years, we talked about, man, we need to do a rematch or a second segment as the technology continues to evolve, especially in kiting and foiling and all this stuff. But we kind of felt like we need to wait until, the stars align, because it's really complicated to get different athletes, different boats together at the same place at the same time with the weather and people around to help film it. It's logistically very hard. So we had tried it in the past, but it hadn't happened. And then luckily things aligned this winter in Miami, and we were able to bring together these awesome athletes and run these races. And no one knew, none of us knew how it was all going to shake out. We all sort of suspected the kite was probably going to win just because they're so incredibly fast. But, the Marstrom 32 was sort of a sneaker to get second pretty dominantly too. And they're just, people always ask us, like, what's the purpose of the video? There is no purpose. It's just fun, and it's interesting, and it promotes conversation and discussion and the enjoyment of sailing for the sake of sailing, which I think is why we all ultimately got into it in the first place.
And now, aside from Waterlust, are you still in your PhD program? What are you up to?
Yeah, so I'm in my last year, hopefully, of my PhD. I'm actually out in California right now doing some work for that. I'm supposed to graduate later this year, probably end of summer into the fall. And then, yeah, we're sort of experimenting with life after academics. My girlfriend Fiona, who also runs Waterlust with me, she graduated last year with her master's, and we're sort of feeling out how to make this a full-time gig and what we would want to do in that scenario. And it seems like something that's going to be able to happen, so we're really excited about that opportunity.
That's great. I know I've seen most of your videos out there, and I know they get tons of views. You have a big following. So give us a little hint. What do you hope to do with this movement that you've started building?
Yeah, so for now, like the first question you have to kind of answer is how you're going to exist financially. You have to pay the bills, and that's like one unfortunate side of life, I guess. But at first we kind of played around with Waterlust being a nonprofit organization, and we had experience with that, or I had experience with that as just an Olympic sailor. You're essentially running a nonprofit, so you're always sort of asking people for money. And that is sort of a tough existence to year. It's hard to kind of build a long-term project if you don't know what your financial situation is going to be. And we also didn't really feel super comfortable, asking people, hey, organizations give us funding, without getting anything necessarily in return. So our new model now that we're working on is more developing Waterlust as sort of like a cause-based brand. And we've got some really amazing people who've just joined in the last year that are helping us develop what we sort of consider fundamental waterlusting products, which are things you would want if you were going out for a day on the water. And we're trying to apply our science background to make these in the most responsible way, and to, in the process, educate the audience about all of this, issues that are related to the products and broader issues that you may not be aware of. So we're doing the film and photography also, and then the products are sort of just another storyline that we get to bring to the table and learn about and share what we learn with everybody else. So when you're wearing a shirt or you're, a rash guard or whatever, you understand where it came from, how it's made, what the impacts are, and how this plays a role in the broader environmental landscape as it applies to the oceans.
Well, you've got a modest but passionate, modestly sized but passionate audience in front of you now. What do you tell to sailors? What is one of the bigger issues that maybe people aren't aware of or need to think about next time they hit the water?
Well, yeah, I think sailors, I got to give a talk at U.S. Sailing this year, and it was sort of, I got that question there as well at the U.S. Sailing meeting. I think sailors are the ultimate stewards for the sea, and it's mostly because they get to spend more time in that environment than arguably anybody else. So everybody knows that the Earth is covered by it's like 73% or 70% or more of the Earth is covered by water, but yet we're terrestrial animals and we spend all of our time more or less on land, kind of, except for sailors and boaters who spend a lot of time on the water. So I think just off the bat, sailors are in a unique position to really be stewards for this environment, where a lot of people, and most sailors will take this for granted, is a lot of people don't ever go to the ocean. I mean, there's a lot of people that live inland that just never, if they see the ocean in their lifetime, that could be a big deal. So I'm kind of recognizing that disconnect and sort of, deciding that you're going to be a steward for the ocean, that you're going to become educated about the issues and, stay educated about them and be proactive and sort of make it kind of part of your life's work to protect what you love. That's where we find that sailors are amongst the best, arguably the best, in that category. And then in terms of issues, it's sort of hard. There's so many. There really is an environmental crisis going on right now. It's global. It's not just in the oceans. It's in everywhere, and it all relates to there's a lot of people on the planet, and we have to make educated and smart decisions about what the path is forward. To live in a sustainable world, not just people, but then all the different animals and all the other natural resources. And this requires education, awareness, and a lot of hard work. And that's, I think sailors are in a unique position to really excel in that.
Awesome. Well, we certainly enjoy it, and hope you find a way to keep it up and make it sustainable. For yourself.
Would love to do a follow-up. I'd like to get Oracle. Maybe we can go out to Bermuda and do another one. We've kind of put that feeler out a little bit, but I haven't heard anything from them. But we'd love to go do one against a new AC boat, and that would be pretty cool.
That would be great. I'd love to see it. I know a lot of people that would happily go with you to Bermuda, myself included, to go shoot something like that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right. Well, I know you've got a meeting with the Navy tomorrow, so good luck out there, and thanks for joining us.
No, thank you, Chris and John, and I love what you guys do, and I look forward to seeing more of it and appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks again, Pat, and thank you, Chris, for getting that great interview with Pat. It's awesome what he's doing, and again, if you're not following him already, follow Waterlust on Instagram. They're great. Now let's just look before we end this episode. Let's just look ahead to this weekend, Chris.
Well, it's a big weekend for women's college sailing. If you were with us last week, you saw us break down all of the top women's teams. The top women's conferences, Mesa, NISA, and SESA, all have their women's champs this weekend. So tune in to TechScore for that. In other college conference championship news, NWIXA and SESA both hold their team race champs.
And don't forget, Chris, one more week in the sort of interconference co-ed fleet racing side. Big regattas on the East Coast. We've got the Admirals Cup at Kings Point and the old-fashioned Boston Dinghy Cup up in Boston, MIT, Harvard, and those should be great events. Good luck, everybody, this weekend. We'll see you next week.
All right, thanks a lot. See you next week.